Imagine one day, you woke up and suddenly realized your entire life had been quietly scripted by someone else. Not a shadowy conspiracy, but something simpler, more insidious, and infinitely more powerful. It's a story whispered gently into your mind from the moment you were born, guiding your choices, shaping your identity, and carefully crafting your beliefs without you ever noticing. What if I told you the biggest lie you've ever been sold isn't hiding in political speeches or news headlines, but instead lives in your thoughts, your desires, and even in the way you measure your worth? This lie is invisible, yet everywhere, so subtle and natural, you've accepted it as truth. You defend it, shape your life around it, and in doing so, hand over your freedom, happiness, and self-control without even realizing it. In this video, we'll unravel that lie, but more importantly, we'll expose exactly how society quietly shapes your mind, guiding not just your actions, but your dreams, your fears, and the very core of who you believe yourself to be. To truly understand this control, we'll explore timeless wisdom from ancient philosophers, all the way through groundbreaking ideas from modern psychology. By the end, I'll share a powerful truth, a revelation capable of shattering the illusion you've been living. But you need to stay until the end, because it's exactly what the world doesn't want you to hear. Let's start at the beginning. When you're born, you don't enter a neutral world. You arrive in the middle of a story that's already unfolding. Society greets you not as a blank page ready to write your own narrative, but as a fresh piece of clay meant to be molded, shaped, and refined according to traditions and rules you never chose. Before you even say your first words, the world around you carefully whispers what's right and wrong, what deserves praise and what earns shame, quietly establishing boundaries you can't yet understand. Your mind, soft, impressionable, and eager for acceptance, soaks in every subtle cue, every nod of approval, every frown of disappointment. You learn quickly, without consciously knowing it, how to behave, what to believe, and who to become, not based on what truly resonates with you, but based on what pleases those around you. As you grow, these whispers become louder and clearer, transforming into explicit lessons. By the time you're old enough to ask questions, the invisible machinery of society is fully operational, guiding your steps and limiting your curiosity. In school, you're rewarded for obedience and praised when you sit quietly, listen attentively, and follow directions without hesitation. Independent thought, especially if it challenges established norms, is quickly labeled as disruptive, problematic, or defiant. So instead of questioning, instead of exploring your innate curiosity, you're subtly conditioned to suppress those impulses in exchange for acceptance, validation, and approval. Slowly, you internalize that authority figures, teachers, parents, leaders, hold the ultimate keys to your self-worth. And it feels good, comforting even, to receive their validation. You learn to crave their approval like oxygen, shaping your behavior and eventually your identity around pleasing them. But beneath this seemingly harmless game lies a critical and rarely examined question. Who decides what's worthy of approval? Who dictates what's normal, admirable, or desirable? Who defines success, beauty, intelligence, or happiness? And why do we unquestioningly accept their definitions? Society conditions you not to ask these uncomfortable questions, precisely because their answers might disrupt the carefully maintained illusion that your value, your worth, depends entirely upon external validation. Yet here's the powerful truth they never want you to realize. Your worth was never theirs to define. The moment you begin asking those difficult, unsettling questions, the moment you start challenging society's script and reclaiming your narrative, is the exact moment you begin to free yourself from a lifetime of subtle programming. The choice ultimately rests with you. Will you continue living someone else's story, seeking their approval and accepting their definitions? Or will you bravely, boldly begin to write your own? This is where the great lie truly forms. Slowly, quietly, almost imperceptibly, you begin to believe your value as a person hinges solely on how perfectly you align with the expectations imposed by society. Instead of being measured by your genuine happiness, your deepest values, or your truest passions, your worth becomes reduced to superficial markers: how productive you are, how attractive you appear, and how many possessions you've accumulated. Society relentlessly reinforces this distorted idea, bombarding you with the same persistent message everywhere you look. From glossy magazine covers and meticulously curated Instagram feeds to endless streams of advertisements promising happiness, beauty, and fulfillment. But only if you buy their products, follow their advice, or adopt their lifestyle. Even family gatherings, once sanctuaries of authenticity, often echo the same harsh judgments, unspoken yet powerful. Do what we say is good, follow our script, and you'll belong. Dare to stray from our path, and you'll be left isolated, unwanted, and forgotten. But pause for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, what happens when your authentic self, your true inner voice, doesn't fit neatly into this carefully constructed story? What if your true dreams, your most heartfelt ambitions, quietly whisper to you about a different journey, one that society never approved or even imagined? Most people respond to these whispers of authenticity by immediately silencing them, frightened into submission by the overwhelming fear of rejection, of judgment, of failure. They bury their deepest desires beneath layers of conformity, ashamed and afraid of standing out, convinced that their genuine self isn't good enough, that revealing it would lead to ridicule or rejection. Philosopher Michel Foucault understood this clearly. He revealed a powerful yet overlooked truth. Society doesn't control you through visible chains or outright threats, but through a far simpler and far more subtle strategy: by defining what it means to be normal. By creating standards for acceptable beliefs, behaviors, and desires, society quietly shapes your self-image, your sense of belonging, and ultimately, your entire identity. Once a clear standard is set and accepted, anyone who dares step outside these invisible boundaries is quickly labeled strange, rebellious, flawed, or even dangerous. You're conditioned to fear stepping beyond the narrow confines of what society approves, convinced that to do so means risking exclusion, loneliness, and humiliation. Yet society, with its cunning subtlety, has mastered perhaps its most insidious deception of all. When you inevitably feel dissatisfied, discontent, or unfulfilled, it swiftly convinces you that the blame lies entirely within yourself. The system whispers softly but persistently in your ear. If you're unhappy, it's because you aren't trying hard enough. If you feel empty, it's because you're not positive enough, not disciplined enough, not grateful enough. You're simply failing to manifest success correctly. The message is always clear. The fault isn't in the system itself, never in the unrealistic expectations imposed upon you. No, it's always yours alone. Sociologist Erich Fromm once described this phenomenon with piercing clarity. He observed that human beings willingly, even eagerly, trade their true freedom to think independently, freedom to live authentically, for comfort, acceptance, and a false sense of security. They aren't coerced violently into conformity. Instead, they learn to crave it, actively pursuing obedience, confusing blind compliance with safety and conformity with genuine belonging. They willingly wear the invisible chains society hands them, chains they've grown so used to that they mistake the heavy weight for stability, security, and comfort. Yet beneath all of this lies a powerful, liberating truth, waiting patiently for you to discover. The unease you feel, the nagging discomfort, the persistent sense of dissatisfaction. All these are not signs of personal weakness or failure. Instead, they represent your truest, most authentic self, quietly fighting to be heard. This discomfort is not punishment. It's a call to action, an invitation to reclaim the identity, passions, and dreams you sacrificed so long ago for acceptance. The realization that the dissatisfaction you feel isn't your fault is the beginning of true liberation. Freedom from society's greatest lie. Freedom to finally begin living your own authentic story. But pause here and really ask yourself, who gains from your insecurity? Who profits from your silent suffering, your quiet desperation to be enough, to be accepted, to belong? Corporations thrive on your self-doubt. They sell you endless products, each promising acceptance, happiness, and fulfillment, yet each leaving you emptier than before. From the perfect body to the perfect life, every ad whispers the same seductive lie. Buy this, and you'll finally belong. Institutions, too, feed on your insecurity. They rely on your obedience, your quiet conformity, your unspoken consent to rules you've never questioned. Governments, schools, workplaces, they flourish by convincing you that obedience is safety, that following their rules is the only way to achieve security, stability, and success. The system itself thrives, quietly and subtly, by making you believe you are free while tightly controlling the invisible boundaries within which you're allowed to move. Understand this clearly. You were never put on this earth merely to obey someone else's expectations. You were never meant to follow a script you never wrote, to live a story handed down to you without your consent. You were placed here to live genuinely, openly, and boldly, to discover your own truths, to explore your unique passions, and to find your own personal meaning and joy. Your purpose isn't to blend in, shrink yourself, or silence your heart. It's to express fully, courageously, and unapologetically who you truly are. Consider for a moment the most powerful prison imaginable. It isn't built from concrete walls, metal bars, or guards keeping watchful eyes over you. The strongest prison is the invisible one you've constructed in your own mind, a cage built from internalized beliefs, fears, and stories you never consciously chose. This mental conditioning, repeated over a lifetime, quietly convinces you that society's narrative is reality itself. It whispers constantly in your ear, reinforcing your self-doubt, your fear of rejection, and your desperate need for external validation. It tricks you into mistaking comfort for happiness, obedience for freedom, conformity for belonging. This prison thrives precisely because it is invisible, internal, and endlessly reinforced, not just by society, but ultimately by you. So stop for a moment, breathe deeply, and reflect carefully. Whose dreams have you been chasing all these years? Whose fears dictate your decisions? Whose approval are you silently desperate to earn, even at the cost of your own happiness, fulfillment, and peace? Whose voice are you listening to when you silence your own inner wisdom, bury your dreams, and shrink your true self into something small, acceptable, and safe? Even the very language you use, the seemingly harmless words and phrases you hear every day, is not innocent. Terms like downsizing instead of mass firings, collateral damage instead of civilian deaths, or influencer instead of paid advertiser aren't random. They mask uncomfortable truths, sanitize harsh realities, and subtly shape your perceptions. Each carefully chosen word serves to protect power, maintain control, and quietly steer your thoughts toward acceptance rather than rebellion, toward passivity rather than action, toward compliance rather than authenticity. But now, knowing this, you stand at the threshold of true liberation. Awareness itself is the first step toward freedom, because once you clearly see the invisible chains binding you, you possess the power to break them. Question deeply, challenge openly, dare to reclaim your narrative. Refuse to accept a script that isn't yours. Freedom isn't something granted by the system. It is something you choose, something you demand, something you take back. Your authentic self, the self society has spent a lifetime burying beneath layers of conditioning, awaits patiently, quietly, powerfully within you. It's time to stop merely existing and finally, courageously begin living the life you've always deserved. The philosopher Plato once painted a vivid picture to illustrate how easily people confuse illusions for reality. In his famous allegory of the cave, he described prisoners bound tightly since birth, their eyes fixed on a cave wall, believing the shadows they saw dancing across it represented all there was to existence. They never turned around to witness the real world behind them, never knew that the images they perceived as truth were mere distortions cast by unseen puppeteers. Today, this ancient image feels uncomfortably relevant. Our modern world has replaced Plato's cave wall with glowing screens, captivating stories, and carefully curated narratives that influence every aspect of our lives. These screens don't simply reflect our culture, they actively shape and dictate it. Mass media subtly and persistently tells us what success should look like, defines exactly what happiness should feel like, and prescribes how individuality itself should be expressed, just as long as we remain neatly inside society's accepted lines. Step outside, dare to question, and you're immediately labeled odd, misguided, or even dangerous. Like Plato's prisoners, many of us spend our lives chasing shadows without ever pausing to question if what we're seeing truly reflects reality, or merely a cleverly crafted illusion. So, faced with this powerful illusion, how can you break free? The first and most critical step toward genuine freedom is awareness. Wake yourself up. Begin by questioning everything. Every belief you hold about success, love, happiness, and your identity. Examine deeply. Do these beliefs genuinely come from your own authentic understanding and experience? Or have you unconsciously accepted a narrative someone else wrote for you? Are your dreams truly yours? Or have they been quietly handed to you, packaged neatly by someone else's idea of what you should want? To see clearly, you must strip away all assumptions, peel back layer upon layer of conditioning, and courageously challenge the very foundation of your thoughts. Once you've gained clarity through questioning, the next vital step is reclaiming your mind, fully and fearlessly. Realize profoundly that you are not defined by your career, your possessions, or your reputation. These external markers are merely temporary experiences, passing roles, brief chapters, not your identity. Beneath these surface layers lies something deeper, more powerful, and infinitely more valuable. You are the conscious awareness that experiences it all. You are not your job title, your paycheck, or the car parked in your driveway. You are not your follower count, your achievements, or your social status. Instead, you are the observer, the experiencer, the true author of your story. Your worth doesn't hinge on external validation. It comes inherently from your very existence, from your innate right to live authentically. Finally, and perhaps most challenging of all, you must take courageous, unapologetic action. Authenticity requires bravery. It demands that you stand firm in your truth, even when it feels uncomfortable, vulnerable, or frightening. It's easy to remain safe and hidden within society's expectations, but living authentically, truly, genuinely expressing yourself, requires the strength to step forward, to break free from the comfortable chains of conformity. Reject the trap of seeking constant external validation as proof of your worth. Accept that some people won't understand your choices, that your authentic path may lead you away from familiar places and faces. Know deeply and confidently that true happiness, true freedom, lies in embracing the authenticity that has always been yours, the genuine self, patiently waiting beneath layers of societal expectations. When you finally choose authenticity over conformity, courage over comfort, and your own inner truth over society's whispered lies, you reclaim the life you were always meant to live. Your liberation begins the moment you realize the power was never outside of you. It was always within, quietly waiting for you to recognize it, own it, and live it. Existential philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre famously said, "Existence precedes essence," meaning you aren't born with a fixed identity or predetermined path. Instead, you enter the world as a canvas, open, pure, ready to absorb the colors and textures of the life you choose. Your choices are your brushes, your actions, the strokes that gradually create a unique portrait, a masterpiece shaped entirely by you. Society, however, quietly convinces you that your identity is rigid, predetermined, and permanently limited by external circumstances. It whispers that freedom is a privilege, granted only by conforming to its expectations, playing by its rules, and staying within its carefully defined boundaries. But the profound truth is exactly the opposite. Freedom is never something society hands you. It's something you must reclaim, something you courageously seize back, piece by piece, decision by decision, moment by moment. Right now, in this very instant, you have an extraordinary opportunity. You hold within yourself the power to rewrite your narrative, to redefine your identity, and to finally break free from the greatest lie society has ever sold you. No longer must you live as a silent character in someone else's story. No longer must you shrink yourself to fit someone else's definition of worthiness or success. Your authentic self, bold, unique, and unapologetic, is still waiting deep inside you, patiently yearning to be fully expressed. Beneath layers of fear, beneath carefully constructed masks, beneath every whispered lie you've accepted as truth, your real self quietly waits for you to awaken. True liberation arrives in the breathtaking moment when you see beyond society's carefully constructed illusion. It happens when you finally reject the idea that you're small, that you're limited, that you're forever bound by others' expectations. Real freedom, genuine freedom, is recognizing clearly and passionately that you are limitless. The barriers you believed in were only illusions, chains made of smoke, fears built from shadows. The moment you realize your infinite potential, the instant you fully embrace the boundless possibilities that exist within you, is the precise moment your genuine life truly begins. The life you're destined for isn't waiting in society's script. It's in the authenticity you bravely embrace when you rewrite that script entirely. It's in the courageous choice to live boldly, fiercely, and genuinely on your own terms, without apology or hesitation. It's found not in external validation, but in quiet moments of fearless self-expression. It's discovered when you finally decide to honor your own dreams, your deepest truths, and your most authentic desires. Your liberation doesn't depend on anyone else's permission. It hinges entirely on your willingness to claim it for yourself. So right now, pause and ask yourself honestly, are you ready? Are you truly ready to step boldly into your truth, rewrite your story, and finally live the life you've always deserved? A life built from genuine authenticity, not societal expectations? Your real journey begins right now. The pen is in your hand. What masterpiece will you create? If this message resonated with you, leave a comment below saying, "I'm ready to rewrite my story." I'd love to hear your commitment and share this journey together. Don't forget to check out one of the suggested videos on the screen for deeper insights and inspiration. And as always, I'm deeply grateful to have you as a part of Mosaic Mind.